So I'm seeing that Tanzania has every right to deny everybody entry. Whoever they feel they don't want people to go in their country, they have that right to do that. That is on them. You are not guaranteed entry into any country. If that country seems that whatever you're coming to do is not in accordance with their laws. Now, denial of entry is what you're entitled to. Torture and abduction, you're not entitled to that. Now that you're crossing the line. So what Tanzania should have done, because they let Boni and Agatha into the country, what they should have done, they should have stopped Boni and Agatha from entering the country. They didn't want them there. The way they stopped other people from getting in, the way they stopped Mother Karua, Anifa, and all the other activists. They should have stopped Boni and Agatha from entering the country and sent them back. And that would have avoided all this.
Technically, you would say he was doing a touristy thing because he was staying in a hotel having breakfast.
Yeah.
The next thing is, tunamwona wapi? Kwa border. Limping.
Yeah.
That, from the moment he was picked up to the next time we saw him, something really bad has happened. That one we can tell.
And they took him to the farthest possible border ya side ya Lunga akiingia ndani ya Kwale County.
So,
yeah.
Would we be wrong in saying there was collusion? Of course we would assume, because our own guy for the foreign affairs guy was like ni kama mazee alikuwa anafurahia.
Yeah, you know, it's like he was happy.
Musalia Mudavadi looked like he was happy. He was saying, by the way, when you have to behave. It's not that unapeleka whatever. You can speculate. This is your Kenyan citizen in a foreign country with whom we have the diplomacy liko wapi.
Yeah. Now this hour, we are going to be diving into the simmering Kenya-Tanzania feud that's had the region buzzing. From Tundu Lissu's explosive treason trial to the dramatic arrest and deportation of Boniface Mwangi. We'll explore what Tanzanian law says, if Kenya crossed a line, and whether the East African dream is slipping away. Please drop a comment below and tell us where you're tuned in from and what you want to hear from the show tonight. And I'm your host and producer, Ali Badawi. It is Friday the 30th of May, and we are streaming live from Kilimanjaro Studios outside Washington, D.C. Now, please remember to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. You already know the handles. And on panel with me tonight is Mr. OneMicShow, sports anchor Mika Och, and DJ Moshfire will be joining us via Zoom. And also not forgetting that our producer is none other than Mubelwa Bandio, who will come in and out of the conversation, because this conversation has a lot to touch with Tanzania, and he's an interested party in this conversation. And yes, you all know the online firestorm that has been happening. So tonight, we want to dive headfirst into the fiery Kenya-Tanzanian feud that's exploded in the past 2 weeks. What began as a simple show of solidarity but turned into a diplomatic spectacle. Now, Kenyan activists, including Boniface Mwangi, were denied entry, deported, and allegedly tortured while trying to attend Tanzanian opposition leaders Tundu Lissu's treason trial. What followed was a vicious social media firestorm and assault. Now, Kenyans online unleashed pure fury, trashing President Samia Suluhu, mocking her speeches, and even ridiculing Tanzanian influencer, and nothing was spared on the way. But beneath the memes and hashtags lies a deeper story. Did Tanzania break regional movement laws under the East African Protocol? Was this a justified act of sovereignty or a state's fear of the spotlight? Now, tonight we cut through the noise. We'll unpack Tundu Lissu's legal wars, the controversial arrests, reactions from both governments, and the haunting allegations of torture. Most importantly, we ask, where does this leave East Africa's fragile brotherhood? So, tell us how you've been consuming this online firestorm. Was this Kenya's overreach or is this Tanzania's paranoia? DJ Moshfire, twende kazi.
I think it's a combination. So I think when I say Kenyans, Kenya's overreach is on social media, because Kenyans on social media or KOT for lack of a better word, they can get up into you. Ask the Nigerians. Now, going back to the Tanzanians, I think there's, what Kenyans need to realize, there's actually a big difference between how Tanzanians handle political political dissidents, if that's what you want to call it, or people who are not aligned with the government, versus how Kenyans handle that. In Kenya, we have freedom of expression, which we are able to express, and like in TZ, you don't have that. And so when we take our freedom of expression across the border into TZ and expect to see things happen in a different way, it will not turn out good. And Magufuli was a perfect example, as we saw how he dealt with the issue of the chickens, the cows, and all sorts of different other things where we had him in trade was ongoing. And people assumed that Mama Suluhu was not going to be doing the same thing, but they're cut from the same cloth, and they are under the same political umbrella, so to speak. And of course, Bandit can speak more to that for us. So for me, the way I've been consuming this is that Kenyans, at some point, we also need to learn how to fall on our own swords internally, na pengine kuna zingine pia unaangalia kutoka mbali alafu unasema hiyo sasa tutaachia wenyeji wa humo wafanye nini, wajisort ama waone vile watapigana humo ndani. Someone else may say that I'm not being a good neighbor by coming in to fight that battle for them, but I think that Kenyans have overplayed their hand in terms of this whole thing. And at this point, really, both sides need to sit down and have a conversation and iron everything out. But we also know where our limits are. Back to you, studio.
Okay, asante sana DJ Mosh Fire. And I don't know whether Mika Och is already tuned in. Mika Och, nataka kukaribisha sana, karibu sana. I want you to also tell us, like, where have you been consuming this from? And then the other question is, this was a few activists who went into Tanzania, but it seems like members of parliament in Tanzania started unleashing on all Kenyans, like hamtuzidi kwa kitu chochote and all that kind of talk. So Mika Och, twende kazi, karibu sana, and tell us how you've been consuming this feud.
Good evening. Happy Friday. How is everybody? For me, I've been looking at this feud in a way whereby it's that of who threw the first stone here, right? Because I'm looking at it in a point of, okay, you're in your house and you're supposed to argue with one of the residents in your house, then your neighbor wants to come and sit into that argument. And this person who you want to have that argument with is somebody who you think is undermining your leadership in that house based on the rules that you guys agreed on, whether they like them or not. So I'm seeing that Tanzania has every right to deny everybody entry, whoever they feel they don't want to go in their country. They have that right to do that. That is on them. You are not guaranteed entry into any country. If that country seems that whatever you're coming to do is not in accordance with their laws. Now, denial of entry is what you're entitled to. Torture and abduction, you're not entitled to that. Now that you're crossing the line. So what Tanzania should have done, because they let Boni and Agatha into the country, what they should have done is they should have stopped Boni and Agatha from entering the country. They didn't want them there. The way they stopped other people from getting in, the way they stopped Mother Karua, Anifa, and all the other activists. They should have stopped Boni and Agatha from entering the country and sent them back. And that would have avoided all this. So I don't see how they can then turn around and start trying to play victim here while you let people into your country, then went to abduct or arrest them. And then instead of releasing them and just deporting them, you drove them to the borders of their respective countries and dumped them there after you've tortured and had them to allegation of sexual abuse. So that is something that was an oversight by the Tanzanian government. Now, Kenyans also always will react because why did you arrest people? Why you abduct? Kenyans have this thing in their mind. It's fresh. It's still happening to them. So for them, they will react, and they reacted. And then now for the parliament to turn around and start discussing about Kenya, I feel that is very childish for a whole session of parliament to sit down and try to castigate people in a country, trying to please. You've done wrong. Even if these people were bad people, you felt they were bad coming to your country. You've done wrong by arresting and torturing people. Now you go to parliament again, a whole leadership, and start discussing. And then instead of even discussing on ways on how you can do it with Kenya, you start talking about the people of Kenya. You're actually the ones who actually look foolish at that point, because I don't see how a session of parliament sits down. Imagine a session of Congress sitting down and talking about Mexicans. Oh, they eat maragwe. They're stupid. Oh, they're deplorable. Like you look like clowns. And then the people you're talking about are kids on the internet, not even. Anyway, for me, I think that, as you said, Ali, does it hurt relations between the East African community? And not within the leadership. I don't think so. Within the people, probably. We had Tanzanians who were there, who are actually castigating their own government. And that is why they took the excuse of Kenyans hacking into the police Twitter as an excuse for them to shut down the Twitter, because they knew that the Kenyans were going to influence the Tanzanian citizenship that's online and tell them, like, because people are calling out Tanzanians like, yo, guys, do you think this is okay? Like, is this really okay? And they were posting pictures and ridiculing them. And now, look, as Tanzanians were feeling stupid, like our leaderships look stupid, and they were turning on them. So that's what, so it just shows that relations will be between Museveni, Suluhu, and Ruto. They'll be fine. They have archaic leadership tendencies. They have a dictatorship tendency inside them. They'll be fine now. Oh, ataskizana. If they agree to oppress, if the East African cooperation is them working together to oppress people, they'll be fine. But within the people itself, has it ruined relations? I don't think it has ruined or improved everything, but it has definitely shifted mindsets of people. Back to you.
All right, that is Mika Och. The number to call is 202-683-4570. Press star 5 to speak. You're tuned into the One Mic Show. Apo Mika Och breaking it down. So type your comments and let us know what you think about what Mika has said. So quite a number of things that Mika unpacked there, from the fact that he said that they do have a right to deny anyone they want entry, but they do not have a right to hold people, torture them. There's even allegations of rape against the Ugandan Agatha Atuhaire, the journalist, and then they were dumped, on their respective borders. They were actually allowed to come into the country, and one of the explanation that was given is that under Tanzania's Immigration Act, engaging in certain activities without appropriate permits is prohibited. And Section 16 of the Act states that individuals must not engage in employment, study, or other prescribed activities. I would like to know, this is where I would have loved, to get Bandio's input. What are those other prescribed activities without the necessary permits? Tanzanian authorities allege that Boniface Mwangi provided false information to gain entry, and while the specific reasons for Atuhaire's detention remain unclear, they were both arrested, detained, allegedly tortured, and there was an alleged rape. Of course, and I'm using the strong words alleged because this is what has been reported by various reputable media sources using the word alleged. And both were dumped in the two different countries at different border points. Then there's another theory. Now, because we are not being given full information, that's why these theories are coming on. There's another theory suggesting that Kinaboni might have been trapped because everyone else was being stopped at the airport. Everyone who they did not want to enter the country was being stopped at the airport. So Kinaboni might have been trapped. Ingieni, and then we're going to arrest you. Going back to what Foreign Affairs Cabinet Secretary Mudavadi in an interview on Citizen was saying, it was difficult to know whether he was the foreign affairs minister of Kenya or Tanzania. Your citizen has been tortured. At that time, he had still been, he was still under the custody of Tanzanian security agencies. So Musalia, the way he was speaking, you're supposed to behave in a certain way, he was speaking like he was the minister for foreign affairs
for
Tanzania, which was very shocking, which lends me to ask before I come to Uno Mike, is there a possibility that there might have been collusion between the Kenyan government and the Tanzanian government? Finya hawa watu, because the ones who they did not want to come in, former cabinet secretary Martha Karua, there was Hanifa, who was also there, activist, and there was a number of other people, former Chief Justice Willy Mutunga. They were all denied entry. But Boni and the Ugandan journalists were allowed entry, and then they were dramatically arrested and tortured and then dumped at their respective borders. Uno Mike, what are your thoughts on this?
I think one, what, karibuni sana, by the way, it's been a long time. I think there was I think the media really needed to break down the simplistic nature of what really transpired, because the call of certain persons being deported only to find out that they were not allowed entry, that brought a lot of confusion, because people are still saying that they were deported.
Yeah,
they were not deported. Mother Karo was not deported. What's her name? The lady. Hanifa.
Yeah,
those guys were denied entry, rightfully so. Tanzania has the right to deny entry, like any other country. It's just like when you're coming over here, unless upite customs. And you're told karibu, we uko border, you're still at the border. If you remember creme de la creme case.
Yeah.
Anyway, that is one.
But kama your creme, was it deportation or denial of entry?
It was denial of entry.
It
was denial of entry.
Okay.
As long as you haven't said ukipiga hiyo ukiambiwa welcome to the United States.
Yeah.
Passport and whatever inachapwa
so
nini.
Anything after that is now deportation, but before passport ipigwe stamp, ukirudishwa ni denial of entry.
Yes. Ukirudishwa, that is denial of entry.
Understood, yeah.
That should have been made clear, or people should have ascertained that. That is one. Two. When it comes to Boni, if he had a tourist visa and if he was not doing touristy things, then they have every right to revoke, right? If they say tunataka ukuje ufanye uende tourism, so by you being a tourist unaenda Lake Tanganyika, unaenda hapa. But if you're caught in late night political meetings, that's a different story.
So what did Boni do? That is a question.
So now that is what we need to do.
He was in a hotel.
He was in a hotel.
Yeah.
Right? He was in a hotel. What we know is he was alichukuliwa.
He was allowed picked up while having breakfast.
He was picked up.
Yeah.
Technically, you would say he was doing a touristy thing because he was staying in a hotel having breakfast.
Yeah.
The next thing is tunamwona wapi? Kwa border. Limping.
Yeah.
That from the moment he was picked up to the next time we saw him, something really bad has happened. That one we can tell.
And they took him to the farthest possible border ya side ya Lunga akiingia ndani ya Kwale County.
So
yeah,
would we be wrong in saying there was collusion? Of course we would assume, because our own guy, for the foreign affairs guy, was like ni kama mazee alikuwa anafurahia.
Yeah, it's like he was happy.
Musalia Mudavadi looked like he was happy. He was saying, by the way, when you have to behave. It's not that unapeleka whatever. You can speculate. This is your Kenyan citizen in a foreign country with whom we have the diplomacy liko wapi.
Yeah.
Unajua the funny thing is what Ali and Uno is that wewe sahi kienda TZ that you need passport. Unaingia na ID yako. Unaona, that is how that is how that East African community operates. TZ you unaingia tu na ID yako unapita na umeishia. Basically bora ni Mkenya. Kama una PP unatumia passport. Kama una passport unaonyesha tu ID, utajaza zako ka form na unapita na certificate yako ya yellow fever na unaishia. Hata sasa yellow fever itishangi ni ID tu unapenya. So they had, and they could have denied him entry quite easy, as it was as easy of him getting entry, because si ati lazima apply visa ama nini. Wale unambo East African community unakuja hapo, unapita hapo, anaangalia ID, anakuambia haya nini, unakampudu nini, like simple. So tukisema hata anatumia hizo clauses za sijui visa yake nasema nini, East African community huko ni kwenu, ko home.
You'd think you're at home
now.